Well, good morning, everybody. After today's mini sermon as part of the devotion, I'll try to be a little quicker today. We are in Numbers chapter 17. And what stood out to me when I read this chapter is the idea that all of us as followers of Jesus are called to be servants, but we are not all called to be preachers. We're not all called to be leaders even. God chooses who He wants to lead His people, who He wants to be a preacher, and so on. The rebellion that we looked at in chapter 16 yesterday, where some of the Levites were jealous of Aaron and Moses and didn't like the hardship of their life and so on. And then the congregation continued to complain after God judged those who were in rebellion. Well, in chapter 17, God's going to try to, he's going to put that to rest. He's going to reaffirm His choice of Aaron and Moses as leaders. And so if you have your Bible open in chapter 17, look with me starting at verse 6. Verse 6. Moses therefore spoke to the sons of Israel, and all their leaders gave him a rod apiece for each leader according to their fathers' households, 12 rods with the rod of Aaron among their rods. So in other words, what God tells Moses to do is for each of the tribes of Israel to give him a rod, a staff. And among those will be Aaron's rod, the one that was used to, when the Nile River was turned to blood, when the Red Sea was parted, and so on, when Moses would strike the rock and water. So that rod was included among those from the 12 tribes, and they were placed in the tent of meeting, where the Ark of the Covenant was located overnight. And then in verse 8, on the next day, when Moses goes into the tent of testimony, the tent of meeting, behold, the rod of Aaron for the house of Levi had sprouted and put forth buds and produced blossoms, and it bore ripe almonds. So overnight, this rod blossomed and produced fruit. The others did not. Moses brings it out to the people, and everyone sees it, and they realize God has chosen Aaron as the priest and the Levites as the servants and Moses as the leader. God is affirming that because they have been told up front God would choose. We're going to put all the rods in the tent of meeting by the Ark of the Covenant, and God will choose the tribe that will lead the people of Israel. God reaffirmed the Levites, reaffirmed Aaron, and finally the people get it. In verses 12 and 13, then the sons of Israel spoke to Moses, saying, behold, we perish. We are dying. We are all dying. Everyone who comes near to the tabernacle of the Lord must die, or we to perish completely. What they're saying is, we get it, that if we keep challenging God, and we want to be the ones who go inside the tent of meeting, we want to take Moses' place, we want to take Aaron's place. If we keep doing that, we're all going to die. Now, when you continue reading Numbers and Deuteronomy, there were other times they complained they didn't become, perfect overnight. But God here publicly reaffirms His choice of Aaron and Moses as the leaders and the Levites as the leaders among the other tribes in terms of serving there at the tabernacle or the tent of meeting. Not all preachers are God called. There are some people who are in ministry for wrong reasons. People in ministry because mama called them, their grandma called them, their pastor called them, but God didn't call them. There are some people in ministry because they're self-called. There's just something about it, they want to do it. You know what the church needs? Men who are God called. And I don't know always who God does and does not call. I know He called me. And when God calls, He'll give you a desire. Because you want to do something to serve God doesn't mean you're not God called. God gives us desire. I love doing what I'm doing. I wanted to preach so bad, I waited a year before I submitted to it to make certain it was what God wanted, not what I wanted. But brothers and sisters, ministry is not something to be played with. It is something to be taken seriously. We're not all called to be preachers. We're not all called to be leaders. We are all called to be servants. If God is calling you to ministry, hey, reach out to me or another pastor and let us help you work through that. Because God does call, and He may be calling you. If He is, I look forward to hearing from you. Hey, God bless you. I'll see you tomorrow.